Thank you. Based on Article 195, out that it would have been more appropriate for Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to address this House according to Article 144, an article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau.
And with the Prime Minister of Canada, the way he's behaving right now, he's exactly like a tyrant, like a dictator. He's like Ceausescu in Romania. If even you doubt, if you raise doubts about the vaccines, you're outcasted. What's the difference between what he does and what happened under the Inquisition? See, on one side they say, well, we should not believe in God, but on the other side they say, believe in science.
What happened there? What happened?
Don't have to. Science is not about belief. Science is about measurements, conclusions, hypotheses, and arguments.
Not when it comes to arguing science with tyrants. Good evening. What day? It's after. Good afternoon, everybody. I could have gone on for another 5 minutes with that clip. I'll post it in the chat so you can all go and enjoy it. But I see our guest in the backdrop, and I'm not asking or expecting Christine Anderson to wait 1 minute longer because we have a tight time frame. So I'll do all the standard stuff afterwards. Right now, we're bringing in member of European Parliament, Germany. I was trying to do some research this morning, but the internet just says that she's far right. Christine Anderson is in the backdrop. She was the first person you saw in that 5 minutes of Justin Trudeau getting roasted at the international level, as he so deserves. Christine, I'm bringing you in 2, 1. Christine, thank you very much for being here. How goes the battle?
Well, it's going. It's going.
I guess the 30,000-foot overview for people who may not know who you are, but I think everyone watching here probably does. But give us the overview.
Well, I strongly believe in, freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. And I will call out anyone who is trying to take that away from the people. I really have made that my mission. And if that someone happens to be the Prime Minister of Canada, well, then he'll get called out by me. So I'm not kidding around with this. So, yeah, that's what I do.
You've been a member of Parliament since 2019, from what I understand?
Exactly.
What does that look like for those who don't have any idea as to how European Parliament works under the European Union? What does that look like? What does your job entail? I mean, as an
well, I mean, in theory, as any parliament, we should or are the institution that controls government. On EU level, it's a little different. We do not really have any competencies. We are not really a parliament, at least not by the standard of, democratic principles. So, so we do not control budget or anything like that. The only thing we can do is like write nice letters to the EU Commission, who, by the way, was not elected. They are pretty much running the show. So we can, write nice letters and asking them, it would be really nice if you could do this, that, or the other. And if they don't, then they don't. There is really no recourse. Won't have any repercussions. So this is really, it is a democracy illusion. They're trying to uphold, the facade of democracy, but this place has nothing to do with democracy. And the former president of the parliament, Martin Schulz, who is from the Social Democrats, as a sitting president of parliament, he once said, if EU was a state applying for membership in the EU, it would have to be denied for lack of democratic structure. That says it all.
Now, the question is going to obviously be then, what do you hope to accomplish as a politician if it's nothing more than being a cog in a wheel that doesn't do anything, doesn't go anywhere, but certainly never goes away?
To be uncomfortable, because they have gotten way too cozy in here. And for the most part, the MEPs here, they really think they're godlike, they're untouchable. And, if they're in their bubble and they're reaffirming themselves, and confirming themselves, yeah, we're just doing everything the correct way here and it's all good. So I'm really there to point out how it's not undemocratic, it's actually anti-democratic, how this place works. So we are here to point all of this out to the people and to make them realize they may think this is a democratic institution. It is not. And you can only do that if you are part of this institution. And on top of that, I mean, I often get asked, well, if you want to abolish, the EU Parliament, for instance, or, to tear down the EU institutions, why do you run to be a member in that place? Well, that's very simple. We do live in a parliamentary representation. The only way to achieve change is via the parliaments. So, of course, you have to be part of a parliament if you want to achieve change. And that's what I set out to do. And I will continue to do just that. But we are really here to show the people that they're being lied to, that they're being gaslit, that they're being manipulated. They're being told all these nice things and, we're going to live in a better world if you just let us run the show. No, point out, no, it's all lies. They're covering up the kind of world they want. You will not play a part in this.
If we can just go back all the way to the beginning, born and raised in Germany?
Yes.
What did you do before going into politics? Because you got into politics by many accounts, like later in life. What were you doing before?
Well, I was actually a housewife. I was a stay-at-home mom. I raised 3 children. And in 2000, I've always voted for the Christian Democrats and the Liberals. They were, the former conservative parties in this country. And in 2005, I did vote for them the last time. 2009, I could not vote for them anymore, so I voted invalid. And in 2013, I heard there was a new party being founded, and they were EU skeptics, Euro skeptics, and I was like, whoa, what is going on here? So getting into politics and becoming a member of that party, that was literally an act of self-defense, because I could not stand the way they were trying to really abolish democracy and the rule of law.
It's interesting. You say active self-defense is a very interesting way of, I didn't get elected, but I felt compelled to run, knowing it was a lost cause, but thinking maybe it wasn't for the same reasons. But in Europe now, Brexit is in what year? Brexit's 2016, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was voted on 2016, but it didn't actually come into effect until January 31st of 2020.
It's unbelievable.
I know. They tried everything to undo this, everything.
But now, so what is the state now with the UK in the European Union? How is that working? Are they outsiders, or has it changed nothing from a practical level?
No, they are no longer part of, no longer a member state of the EU. They are now, negotiating all kinds of contracts in terms of trade and, visa and all of this. But what I can say, I mean, before it actually happened, they draw this picture of, once January 31st of 2020 comes around, there is going to be thunder and lightning, and Great Britain is going to be wiped off the earth, a huge tidal wave. They will just, be gone from the planet. That's how they kind of like, fear mongering, the classical fear mongering. If you guys actually do leave, you will die. Your country will be wiped off this planet. Well, nothing happened, did it now? On the contrary, when you look at the economic data, which were predicted to go way down and they were going to fail utterly, none of that happened. None of that happened.
Where did you learn to speak English? Your English is not only impeccable, it's almost accent free.
Well, it's not nearly impeccable, but thanks for the compliment. I lived in the United States for 6 years, so yeah, I picked up that American accent. The Americans really did a number on me with that one, didn't they?
It's a good accent. So okay, so you have the Brexit movement. There was fear that it would spread to the other European Union nations. There was not just fear mongering. I think there was outright extortion. Were they not threatening to frustrate the UK's economic capabilities to exist as a lone entity in Europe?
Oh, of course. I mean, they played every card they had and every trick in the book. They thought of everything. And they were really trying to prevent that. There were even talks about we have to redo the popular vote that they took in Great Britain, to kind of redo it. But they weren't successful. And yes, I said back then, with that referendum they took in Great Britain and then actually leaving, that was the first brick out of the wall. So now it's established. Oh yes, it is possible. You can leave this place if you set your mind to it and you really want to. This president, that's what they were trying to prevent, but they weren't able to. So I'm pretty sure in the years to come, there will be more countries, especially I would guess Eastern European countries, because the thing is they remember what it felt like to live under foreign rule. They endured totalitarian Soviet rule, and they still remember how it felt. They do recognize the mechanisms and the signs for this, and they're very alert, and they're seeing it all over again. Now this time they're not put down by force, but by rewards. Well, we give you more money, we'll give you more money, and we do this, that, and the other. But in essence, it is the same. So I'm pretty sure there will be more countries that will leave this anti-democratic nut house.
What's Germany like on this front? They seem to be. I sort of understood that Germany was sort of like the bigger player in all of this, but maybe the ones that's financing a lot of the other less successful nations.
You know what? If Germany actually were to leave EU, party is over. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. With these absurd programs they put into place here, and it has nothing to do with actually improving people's lives. It is all about ideology. This whole identity politics madness that's going on. You have this climate idiocy going on, this gender idiocy going on. It's ideology, but none of that will actually improve regular people's lives. On the contrary, they have to finance it all. And like I said, if Germany were to leave EU, the party is over.
Is there any movement in Germany to make that happen, or are they content with the status quo?
Well, you're looking at it. No, I'm just kidding. No, my party actually, this place is, like I said, anti-democratic. And anyone, that is a Democrat and really believes in freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, you have no other choice but to leave this place. So you really have to do it. But we are in a minority. And as you have stated, of course, we are right wing. So it's suspicious, but
I say that as a joke. It seems that anybody who's not like, dude, I'm called right wing, and it makes so little sense for so many obvious reasons. It's the alternative for Deutschland, the alternative party for Germany is your political party.
Yes, it is, exactly.
Okay, so the question I had was this: like, I've never actually had a member of European Parliament on, so I've never gotten to ask these questions.
Okay,
is the EU not basically in bed with the WHO, the WEF? Have they not been fully infiltrated by these? I'm starting to sound like Alex Jones, even in the question. Are they not fully compromised, fully infiltrated by the WEF and the WHO, and basically subservient to global interests?
It certainly looks like they do. They are, right? They're doing their bidding. Whatever comes from WHO, whatever comes from WEF, or whatever international organization, I call them Globalitarians, whatever is coming out of their offices or whatever a notebook they have or whatever a playbook they have, they fall just right in line. But it's not only EU. Just look at it. It's literally every single government in every single Western democracy. They are in lockstep with all of these, ideas, agendas, issues, whatever. So, but from a practical point of view, and that's how they look at these things, it is much easier to deal with one entity, that being EU, than having to deal with 27 different national member states. You get it?
Yep.
So
No.
they want the EU to become the super state, because then all they have to do is, get von der Leyen in line, and they wouldn't have to talk to 27 prime ministers of all of these different countries.
Yeah,
so it's making things much easier. There you go.
I was listening to Carl Benjamin Lotus Eaters. I don't know if you know who he is, but talking about how, it becomes much easier if all of Europe just becomes districts of the European Union or the WHO.
Exactly. And that does not only hold true for, all these organizations, it also holds true for big business. If they had to lobby 27 different decision makers in the countries, that's hard work. So you just come here to Brussels, you speak to one person, and it all goes your way. Gosh, life can be so easy, can it?
Now, I had to look it up just to make sure. There's a Christine Anderson on the WEF, but she doesn't look like you. You don't have one of those profile landing. She looks blonde. It doesn't look like you at all.
I wouldn't even put it past them that they would try something like this just to discredit me.
It's amazing. I see Christine Anderson, Senior Managing Director, Global Public Affairs, Blackstone. But it's clearly not you unless you look.
Okay, I swear to God, it's not me.
All right. Actually, now that I have you here, I won't keep you past 30 minutes. And before we get into Justin Trudeau, and I'm going to ask you the tougher question as to why Germany's not much different in their response to COVID as the rest of Europe compared to Trudeau, except less hypocritical. The war.
Oh no.
Ukraine and Russia, and the role that Germany plays in all of this, is there, how do you account for what appears to be European nations, the Western world, marching quickly towards an escalation to World War III? How do you account for this from the interests of Europe, Poland, Germany in particular? What accounts for this? It appears to be a race to World War III.
Well, what accounts for this? Stupidity. No regard for the people, contempt for the people, the attempt to get it their way so they can make a buck. I don't know. It seems complete and utter nonsense what they're doing. But on the other hand, it's like, I really don't know what to say anymore. I was, obviously born and raised in Western Germany during the Cold War. And there's always been, this threat of World War III, and we all knew back then that was going to be a nuclear war. Really, Putin sitting in Russia, and let's be clear about this, he doesn't seem to be particularly stable. Should you back someone who obviously is not stable, should you back him up into a corner where he has nowhere to go than, to confront and to go forward? And this guy is sitting on nuclear weapons. Hello? Have they not heard about this? So, I'm just stunned. And I really don't know what to say about this. But interesting is, though, when you look at, what role does Germany play in all of this anyway? Please, let's blast our power supply, Nord Stream 2. Oh, not interested in that. You haven't heard a single word from the German government on that. Nothing.
Do we know, have we found out who sabotaged the pipeline?
No.
Has Germany?
Well, they don't seem to be interested in finding out. But I can tell you this, had there been the slightest shred of evidence that actually Putin did this, oh boy, the papers would have been full of it. We would have been, from morning to end, to the evening, they would have unloaded their speculation. We didn't hear a thing, did we?
Well, I'm going to ask if it's rumorings or if you're allowed to disclose any knowledge you have. Rumorings are that it was, it might have been America that did it. If hypothetically it was America.
There's all kinds of rumors going around. The point is, like I said, had there been a shred of evidence that Putin was behind this, they would have shoved this down our throats. But we did not hear a darn thing about this. So I know who it wasn't.
Well,
I'm perfectly clear on that.
I think,
but I don't know who actually did it. I have no idea. And once again, they do not want to know, apparently, because, you know, the info might upset the public.
Well, it might implicate an ally. Are there rumors, suspicions among the free-thinking members of European Parliament that America did it? And if it were known, that would cause something of a rift between Germany and US relations?
Well, obviously there is, you know, we are talking about this, and, you know, we are saying, well, if this happened, or if that were the case, then this, that, and the other. But we don't know. And our government doesn't seem to be this in the least bit interested in finding out what actually happened.
That in and of itself is exquisitely suspicious.
I know.
What has the winter been like now? Because there was talk of a winter of, you know, doom and destruction. Or I've heard that in France, they're actually at hotels telling people to turn off their heating at night. All sorts of energy protective measures. Has the poop hit the fan in Germany?
Well, no, it hasn't. And well, one of the ministers who was in charge of power supply and all of that, he must have struck a deal with St. Peter, because he said it was like August or September. He was trying to reassure the public, and he was saying, well, our gas supply will last through winter if it doesn't get cold. And guess what? I know. Can you imagine? But like I said, he must have struck some kind of a deal with St. Peter, because it wasn't that cold. We had like 1 week in the beginning of December, it was pretty cold, and now another week here, but it's not that cold. So no, it really hasn't happened. But in all the public buildings, they turned down the temperature to 19 degrees Celsius, which is cold if you just sit there, you know, and do work or sitting work. It is simply too cold. So, but no, there have been a couple of blackouts here and there, but it was, you know, regionally contained. So no, nothing really happened. Well, but winter is not over yet, so we don't know what happens. And yeah.
No, they're going to say if it hasn't been too cold, it's because of global warming. Now they're going to have to lock everyone down for another reason.
Yeah, right. But the thing is, though, people they really do not know how to pay their energy bills anymore, and you see that in bars or whatever. You know, when they had outside sitting, and when it's cold, they had like these heating lamps, and they shut them off because they simply could not afford it anymore. And you have small businesses like bakeries, for instance, they had to shut down because there is no way that they could, you know, pay these bills. And I mean, we're not talking about triple or quadruple. I mean, we're talking by factor 20.
Because we saw this, there was a graph circulating in North America. It's not an exaggeration. They've gone up by a factor of 10 plus.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
Energy cost. So there's no energy shortage because everyone's shutting it down, but they are actually, that's the increase of energy costs, which.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. Yeah. But hey, we're saving the planet.
Yeah, they're never going to save the planet because they're not going after the root causes, which, as far as I'm concerned, are those international freight liners. But whatever, they can, you know, take a few cars out of the area. Okay, so that's WEF, sort of WHO. Let's get down to, you know, a lot of people in the West. I maybe had not heard of you until your free expression against Justin Trudeau. Why was Justin Trudeau even there? Is he as much of an embarrassment, laughingstock at the international level as we think he is? And how does he get through the day knowing that he is hated by his people and loathed by his colleagues?
Well, I mean, look at him. He is so ridiculous, you know? I mean, when I was in plenary, when he was holding a speech, and I made an effort to listen to what he was saying, because, you know, I wanted to, you know, make fun of it or attack it or whatever. I wasn't capable of keeping up my, you know, just staying with him. It was so utterly boring. But he is, to me, he is a laughingstock. But he was here because, you know, Putin invaded Ukraine. And so they decided to fly him into Parliament to lecture us on democracy and, you know, the rule of law and all of this. So, I mean, whenever there is like a gathering, they had like a EU summit or whatever. So there were a couple of world leaders in Brussels anyway. So they just invited him to lecture us on principles of democracy. And the way he chose to do it, oh gosh, I was like, really? That's the best guy they can come up with? Seriously?
But is he? I mean, you are, you're qualified as whatever, right wing, whatever. Is he actually secretly loathed by everyone in European government?
No.
So people do actually. There are people who actually like him.
Oh yeah, they are. Of course, tons of them, lots of them. Because, like I said, they're all in lockstep. Whatever members of government who are kind of hoping, to benefit from being part of the club, they like him. Of course they do.
I can't understand it. Him coming in and lecturing on Putin while he literally violently suppressed peaceful protest here. It's like, I just have to assume everybody has half a brain and can see through.
It's not, make no mistake, it's not just Trudeau. It's every single Western democracy that is going about these things. So we just had, a study brought out yesterday, and it was the effect of communication and disinformation during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we had a study, the impact of fundamental rights violation in the COVID pandemic. But make no mistake, they are talking about, there have been, violations of fundamental rights, but it was all necessary. We needed to save lives and And everything they did, this is basic. This committee is just, the purpose of this committee is to justify it all. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, of course, they all love Trudeau because, he was marching in front of the parade and he was showing everyone how brave he would push down his own people.
Well, that's it. Like I said, don't expect proper behavior from tyrants, Putin and whomever, when you don't get proper. You've lost the moral standing to lead, and it's a bad influence where other people, like in Germany's like, well, okay, let's do something similar, but not as bad as Trudeau, and therefore we can get away with it, and he takes the brunt of the criticism.
I know. Well, the point is this. They are going about it in a much more clever way. They are not rounding up people and locking them up. No, they're luring them in. You're going to have a better life, and we'll save the planet, and we will live in a better world, and you're morally righteous if you get vaccinated. All of this, it's pretty much they're sugarcoating it all, and but that's the thing I always say. Totalitarianism, it never starts out by rounding up people and locking them up. Then all hell would break loose. No. Little steps, one step at a time. And before you know it, you may not have any recourse left to do anything about it.
You said they weren't locking people up, but they did have government designated quarantine facilities here where they were bringing people oftentimes without even the right to consult counsel.
Yeah, I understand. What I meant by saying that, they were not systematically, rounding people up. Well, but that's the end of totalitarianism. Once you're at that point, there is nothing you can do about it anymore. Now is the time.
Now you're coming to Canada that's, I guess, next week, right?
It's February 6th. I fly out 16th. So the first venue is February 18th.
And what's the purpose of your tour?
Well, I just want to meet the people who have given to so many people, millions of people around the world, hope, because that's what the people needed. They didn't know what to do anymore. They saw something was going on. They saw it was wrong, but they were discriminated against. They were ostracized. They were, made a laughing stock. They were labeled right-wing extremists. The whole shebang, all of this went on. And then there were, the Canadian truckers, and they just decided to set their trucks on rolling. And these trucks did not only roll in Canada. No, they roll all over the world. And that spark of hope, that actually, it started right there. People took to the street and they said, well, if they're doing this in Canada, my government is doing this. Yes, we need to do something. So I just really want to meet the people who made this possible, and I'm dying to meet them.
Fantastic. And I remembered one question I have to absolutely ask. It's rumoring in the West, but we've heard Victoria Nuland say this is going back to Ukraine, Russia. What do you know about bio facilities in Ukraine? What does the European government know? Do they exist? Are they, what do they call them? Protective or research facilities, but not bioweapon facilities? Does the European government know anything about that you're allowed to disclose?
Well, if the European or EU government, please don't say European government, because There
sorry,
is
sorry.
no European government, EU government. Well, if they know anything about that, they certainly wouldn't share it with me. They won't share it with anyone. So yes, there has been talk about that apparently was going on. But just like that, as so many other issues or things that they actually should have looked into, it's just being buried. I mean, just think about the lab theory. Where did COVID come from? I mean, it took what, like 2.5 years for Tedros to actually, the chief of WHO, to actually admit, well, yeah, it kind of must have come out of a lab, But I mean, just think what, there were scientists, they said, well, that's the only way this, is plausible. No, they were deplatformed, they were, taken out of their job, whatever. So, I mean, they're trying to keep all of this under wraps, and whatever they do which is not politically desired and does not go with their narrative, they're burying it all. So it's actually people like you, and I'm really enjoying talking to you, I have to say that. It's really people like you, and other alternative media outlets that really poke the finger in things and, ask these uncomfortable questions. But that's how democracy works. And I thank you for doing the job and the work you do. And you're quite good at it, I might add.
Thank you very much. I accept compliments. Okay. Christina, I know you had a hard half hour. So
I do have to run, yeah.
Where can people find you? I mean, I follow you on Twitter, but what's your Twitter handle?
Twitter handle. Okay, it's Anderson MEP AFD, something like that. But you know what? Just Google me. You'll find the links.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Enjoy your time in Canada. I won't be there, so we won't get to meet in person. But maybe if you're down the East Coast side of the States, we can meet up.
All righty. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Fantastic, people. What a boss. Thank you, Viva. Yep. No, so I saw some, first of all, I looked up whether or not Christine Anderson had a landing page on the WEF before this stream. I do it with every single politician now. And there is one. It's just not her. So I can see how that can cause confusion. Hold on. Where is it? Mr. Anderson. Here we go. Christine Anderson is managing director at Global Public Affairs Group. She's involved in Blackstone's dealings with the press. I don't know what Blackstone is. So that's clearly not her. Christine Anderson is not exactly the most unique of names. It's a nice name. It's just like, Freiheit. Although in Germany, there's a lot more Freiheits than there are in Canada. But Freiheit, we're the only Freiheit family in Quebec that I know of. And there's only like 8 in Canada. In the States, it's a little bit more of a common last name, or there's more Freiheits. And that's because a lot of people defected from Germany who had that name, but they weren't necessarily on the same side of that political conflict. Christine Anderson's amazing. And it's becoming something of a rule. When the media says someone is far right, I'm going to like them. I mean, it's like, I'm going to like them, and they're not going to be far right, by the way. They're going to be probably rational, probably centrist, probably more, what's the word? Not nationalist, because that has a bad connotation, against globalism. They believe in national autonomy, national identity, which is not race-based or a national culture. Like when Justin Trudeau says there's no such thing as Canadian culture or a Canadian identity, bull crap there is. And you ain't it, Trudeau. Let me see in the chat if I missed anything. So I'm in the chat in StreamYard. Fantastic woman. Patriotic. Patriotic is a better word. Oh God, Viva, you're Jewish. LOL. Oh no, he knows. I'm spiritual, and I enjoy the unholy foods. That's fantastic. They all know. I want to meet the parliamentarian who actually likes Trudeau for reasons other than bad reasons. I can understand why some people like Trudeau for the bad reasons, because he's the bigger bully in the schoolyard. So you like him because you get away with the lesser level stuff, because there's always someone who's worse, more embarrassing, more in your face. So that was phenomenal. Oh, the dog is just pooped in her bed. Now she's crawling out of her bed. Okay, well, at least it's not on me. So, by the way, good afternoon now. I knew Christine had a hard 30 minutes, so I didn't want to keep her waiting a minute longer than I had to. Standard disclaimers. Haven't seen many super chats, but if you do see them, Matt, Putin said he'd turn off the pipes if he wanted to stop the flow. It makes no sense that Putin would have sabotaged the pipeline. It makes no sense. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you, but yes, that's a good point. What makes sense? The Americans did it, or American interests. The Germans know it, and therefore they're not using it as a pretext to go after Putin, because they would have, in the same way they tried to use the pretext of the two Polish Polish farmers getting killed by a stray missile, which they attempted to blame on Russia for a split second to invoke Article 5 of the NATO agreement, whatever. They would have blamed it on Russia, and they would have used it as a pretext. They didn't. And now the fact that no one wants to know who did it lets you know exactly who did it. Viva, did you just say your dog pulled an Amber Heard on your bed? She pulled an Amber Heard on her bed, but my Pudge is on an all beef diet, and so the poop is not anything like the Amber Heard turd heard around the world. But yeah, I see it happening. My office doesn't smell good, guys. Okay, so standard disclaimers. No legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification advice. YouTube takes 30% of all super chats. We are simultaneously streaming on Rumble, where we're going to go exclusively in a minute or two. Rumble has these things called Rumble Rants. Rumble takes 20% of those. Those are like sort of real-time tips if you want to support the channel that way. Best way to support the channel? Viva Bar... Why is it not in my name? Edit name. You silly. Viva Barnes Law.locals.com. That is the best place to support. Be part of the community if you so choose. But before we go to Rumble, and I didn't get to do it before we came in here, you may have noticed a little thing that said this stream contains a sponsored promo, whatever it is. The sponsor of today's day, birchgold.com. My father always said, making money is hard, losing money is easy. And my goodness, my father's still alive. He's still spewing out the gems of wisdom. Making money is hard, and losing money is easy, because you lose money just by sitting on money. You lose money because of other people's idiotic political decisions, printing cash the way Trudeau and Biden are doing in the States. You can make $100. And then if you just put that under your mattress and sit on it, you lost 8% in no time at all, because eggs cost $10 for a dozen, depending on where you are. What's the best way to try to preserve your money and actually make your money expand in value? Gold. Gold is gold, by the way. You're going to get pure gold from any service. What you are buying onto is a service. Birch Gold, multiple thousand, 5-star reviews, A+ by the Bureau of Better Business, whatever that thing is called. Gold, there's a reason why it's been sort of the hedge for 5,000 years. Better than Bitcoin. Doesn't go up 1,000x overnight. Doesn't go down 1,000x overnight. You can hold it. You can feel it. You can also roll over your 401k into precious metals. Birch Gold can help you do that. Birchgold.com, promo code VIVA. You'll get a free info kit. No obligation. Gold is gold. It was the gold standard for a long time for a good reason. It stands the test of time. It's hedged against inflation. It's tangible. Don't worship it, because that becomes idolatry. But if you're going to do it, get it. You can roll over your investments into precious metals. Birch Gold can help you. Birchgold.com, promo code Viva Frei or Viva, and the links will be or should be in the descriptions. Thank you very much, Birch. Now, with that said, everybody, the gold standard was awful. It might have been awful, but it was the standard. With that said, I'm joking. It's tongue in cheek, but if you had bought gold, I mean, it's like the slow, steady thing. You don't get rich quick. You don't go poor quick. And over time, it has proven to be the best investment and the best hedge against all government incompetence, massive inflation, hyperinflation. It has to be converted into fiat at some point, but it's a good investment. And Birch Gold is the company through which to do it. Okay, now, before we get into the shiat of the day, people, I like seeing the numbers go down on YouTube, because it means they're going up on Rumble. The link is there. My silver is doing just fine, says Sad Wings Raging. Yeah, well, they do silver and gold. They do precious metals. I think they even do platinum. Anyhow, okay, we're done. Thank you, Birch. The shiat we're going to get into today, people. Gaslighting. Up the wazoo. They cannot hide the truth anymore. To find the truth, come to Rumble. This stream will be put to YouTube, the balance of it tomorrow. But today it's going to go exclusively live on Rumble in 3, 2,